You're gonna need a bigger boat. So serious. Roll out.
I am Iron Man.
This is a tasty burger.
Welcome to the In Session Film Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the In Session Film Podcast and this podcast review for October 28th, 2025. I'm Megan Kearns, and I'm here with Max Vincent. Brendan and JD couldn't make it, so Max and I are filling in. Hi, Max.
Hello, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, doing great. Ready to talk, ready to get Stuckmannized.
Yes, we are going to be talking about the horror film Shelby Oaks. And if you hadn't already guessed, and yes, it is written and directed by Chris Stuckmann, who is, of course, a film critic with a very large YouTube following in his directorial debut. The story is also written by Stuckmann as well as his wife, Samantha Elizabeth. And it stars Camille Sullivan, Sarah Dern, and Brendan Sexton III, as well as small parts by Michael Beach and Keith David. And the review ratings, it's got a 59% on Rotten Tomatoes out of 90 reviews, 2.9 stars on Letterboxd. It had its world premiere at Fantasia Fest last year, and it's also screened at London Fright Fest and Fantastic Fest, and it released in theaters October 24th. So I'm going to give the synopsis from the Neon press release, and then we'll dive in. A woman's obsessive search for her missing sister leads her into a terrifying mystery at the hands of an unknown evil. And yeah, so this is about Mia, who is looking for her sister Riley, and who has been missing for over a decade and disappeared after her paranormal YouTube series, The Paranormal Paranoids. And yeah, so we'll dive into more of the plot as we talk. The crowdfunding broke records for Kickstarter funded horror films. And then filmmaker Mike Flanagan reached out to Chris Stuckmann afterwards and helped him with a rough cut of the film in the editing room. So, and of course, with Chris Stuckmann's following and all of that, there was a lot of anticipation for this film. So, Max, what are your overall thoughts on Shelby Oaks?
Well, I have an interesting, I guess, relationship with this movie in the sense that I live where the Fantasia Fest is happening.
Mm-hmm.
So when they announced the movie would have its world premiere at the festival, the anticipation was like skyrocketing high. People were so excited to see the movie, especially when Mike Flanagan was announced as one of its executive producers. And I think the movie, even during its opening credits, it doesn't say Neon Presents. It says Mike Flanagan Presents.
Yes, it does.
So, that's pretty significant. A crowdfunded, independently made horror movie gets the backing of, I think, one of the best horror filmmakers, or we should say genre filmmakers working today, because The Life of Chuck isn't necessarily a horror movie, even though it's an adaptation of a Stephen King novel. And that's, by the way, that movie's incredible. I don't care what anyone says. So Mike Flanagan's backing was pretty significant. And then,
Yes.
On top of that, I think it was like, I don't know, a week maybe before the Fantasia premiere, Neon picked it up, which is like, massive for Chris Stuckmann. So, I unfortunately was not able to attend the premiere at Fantasia, but a lot of my friends went. And I have a lot of recollections from the event where everyone was so excited before the movie began. The ambiance in the audience was completely sold out, was electric. The press people, people that are accredited to cover the festival, they have to line up like an hour in advance, and the line was like massive. A bunch of people didn't get in. So it was like, it was probably the most anticipated film out of that whole edition of the festival. And then after the movie ended, I remember the reactions were all really muted. Like people, like the most positive reactions I saw from it was like, yeah, it was all right. But it wasn't like a ringing endorsement. And I went, uh-oh. But not being able to see the movie at Fantasia actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because when Neon picked it up, they gave, I think, Stuckmann an extra $1 million or something to reshoot and re-edit the movie to add a little bit more gore. I think they hired one of the editors from Hard Eyes and Companion.
They did.
I guess, give the movie a fresh new edit, which I guess, is great for Stuckmann, who is always I mean, I'll always respect Stuckmann as an individual, especially considering what happened in his personal life as a Jehovah's Witness who, he had basically escaped the Jehovah's Witness to pursue filmmaking. So I'll always respect him on that level. And I think it's really cool that, he's always wanted to break into filmmaking, and now he's got the keys to basically just do whatever he wants with Neon. But I really did not like this movie.
Oh, okay.
I liked maybe the first 20 minutes where it was the faux documentary found footage type movie. That was really compelling. And as soon as it goes into traditional filmmaking, it goes off the rails and it never recovers. And the ending in particular, no spoilers, but I really didn't like it. So that, look, I want to be fair. I grew up with Chris Stuckmann, I guess, because I'm not that old, and I used to watch his videos when I was a kid. I don't really anymore, but I've been sort of actively tracking the development of the project, and to see it come to fruition, to see it being released in theaters with Neon's backing, premiering at Fantasia and all that stuff. I think that's just awesome. I just wish the movie was better.
All right. As far as feelings on Chris Stuckmann, I feel similarly in that I have always liked his reviews. I like him as a film critic. I like his thoughtful approach, and I really appreciate that. And yeah, this is a really fascinating story behind the scenes, and it's incredibly inspiring too. I mean, there's a lot of luck and a lot of right place, right time, considering that the way this got made was that he pitched this kind of in a cold open to a producer at Fantastic Fest. And that's kind of amazing. And, then to have incredible filmmakers work on this and give their input. And so that's all incredible. I didn't hate this. I did not dislike this. I think it's got a lot of flaws. I think it has problems. And I agree that the 20 minutes, the opening 20 minutes are the strongest piece of the film. It's really incredible. And yeah, it's an interesting decision to switch genres, because this is such a genre mashup of faux documentary, found footage, later possession. And yeah, so I kind of want to talk about that, because it very clearly wears its influences on its sleeve, very clearly is influenced by Blair Witch Project, as well as probably Lake Mungo. The film's early marketing even reminds me of the marketing for Blair Witch Project, in that there were found footage clips released to YouTube years before the film was finished and put out. So what do you think? Because I know you said that you did not like the film after it switches from the faux documentary. But so what do you think about that melange of the various genres?
Well, I think Stuckmann does wear his influences on his sleeves for the first 20 minutes, where you can tell, okay, he's riffing on Lake Mungo and Blair Witch, but it's not like I'm copying those movies.
No.
We can see his voice in that. I don't really know how to, because it mixes found footage and documentary filmmaking. Because I think there's one scene of the movie where it's Riley. She's sort of recording herself on a computer screen, I think, and we see something in the shadows or in the background of a window, and it's not very clear what it is, but that image alone is scary enough to kind of get under our skin. And I like that. I like it when it doesn't a creature or whatever, in a horror movie doesn't jump in front of us at the audience. It's just a cheap jump scare, but actually just builds tension just through is that something in the window there? I'm not sure if it's real or not, or if it's actually something in the background.
Right.
That's terrifying. And that really works. And I really would have loved the movie, to stay in that realm. And there's even there's even one scene that I liked in the traditional filmmaking, I guess, framing device, is when she watches the old lost tape that gives her more information on what happened to Riley, where the camera just films the TV and she's looking at, the footage in a different light than the faux documentary. We zoom in on the television and we see a more pixelated image, creates a really effective sense of tension. But then as it progresses into the traditional filmmaking, then it starts to, copy other films and doesn't necessarily wear the influences on its sleeves. It's like, yes, I have seen The Blair Witch Project. I have seen Wendigo. I have seen Rosemary's Baby. I have seen all these movies. What else do you have to offer? Not much, I guess.
Yeah, and that is kind of interesting thinking about that. Like, what else do you have to offer? Especially because I feel like this was such a personal project in so many ways, in the sense that, he's from Ohio. It was filmed in Ohio. His wife worked on the film and writing the story. They incorporated their own fertility struggles into the story with Mia and her husband, Robert, and how they don't have children. And there's that great scene, the shot of the crib, and there's all kinds of boxes and things in it, and it's really disheartening and kind of awful, but in a great visual, like, it's doing a lot of visual storytelling, which is excellent. So it is this really personal story, but I think the writing is the weakest part of it. And I kind of like that. I like that the film is hinting at so many things, and I don't think we as an audience need everything spelled out. I think we can hint at things. I think we can be ambiguous. I think we can be a little vague, but it doesn't necessarily dig as deeply as maybe it could or should. So yeah, I do wish there had been some more ideas there, maybe more character development, maybe more original ideas. So I agree with you on that front.
Well, the more ambiguous for me, the better.
Yeah.
I like it when we don't have to know everything, and not all of it needs to be explained, but it has to make at least some sense in the world that you're building. It's fine to get, like, a horror movie always will have some sort of otherworldly presence that's not necessarily rooted in the real world, and that's fine. But a lot of it, especially in the concluding section of the movie, it just, none of it made sense. It's like, why is this happening? Who is this person? Why, I don't want to spoil it, but it's like, why is that happening? Or like, why are we going there? What is she doing? And a lot of the decisions that Mia makes as she looks for Riley are extremely convenient, to the point that they become ridiculous. Like, this isn't the it's in the trailer. The inciting incident is a man who arrives at her doorstep, and he shoots himself in front of her, and then she has her whole face covered in blood. And then there's the whole opening credit sequence that happens, and there's the passage of time, so it was probably during the day or the afternoon, and then we're at night, and she still has blood covered on her face.
Yes. Why isn't she washed it off?
Like, even though I understand that it's a very traumatizing thing, absolutely. Right. But my first reaction would be to wash that blood out. Like,
yeah.
Why would she still have it on her face?
Or she could, like, if you want to indicate that she's just so traumatized that she hasn't even thought to do that, her husband could have been like, honey, don't you want to, like, wash yourself? And she could have been like, oh yeah, you're right. Like, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that was driving me up a wall. I'm like, why won't she wash her face?
But I mean, it's small things like these that eventually they have an impact in the story. Because when this movie is ridiculously short, by the way. I think the end credits, because of all the Kickstarter backers that are credited, it's like 15 minutes long.
Yeah, it's so long. It's so long.
Never ended. So it's maybe the movie's like 80 minutes or something without credits, because I think with credits like 91 minutes or something like that. And it as the movie progresses, it just, nothing gets developed, and narratively I wasn't really attached to any of the characters. Yeah. And then I started to see where the story was going. And I went, oh no, if this ends the way I think it's going to end, I don't think I'm going to like it very much. And it did. So, Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like a car crash and you see it coming and you're like, no, no. Maybe not that severe. But yeah, I agree in that Mia especially makes a lot of confounding decisions. And listen, there's a fine line because you obviously want your protagonist to be somewhat smart, clever, and but some of the decisions that she makes they just do not make sense. And you're right, they are incredibly convenient, way too convenient, and that was really frustrating. But yeah, something you were talking about earlier about the editing and how the opening faux documentary, we both agree that that works so well. And there were two editors, like you said, and Patrick Lawrence and Brett W. Bachman. And Bachman was brought in once Neon acquired the film. And he did an interview, or he talked with Bloody Disgusting, and he was talking about how the documentary portion of the film was about 30 pages long in the script, and the original cut of the film had it 40 minutes long. So they trimmed it down, but they kept wanting, I guess the other people who worked on the film wanted to compress it more. And Bachman was like, no, you need to keep it longer. Let's let this breathe. Let's let it go because it's a really strong part. So I wanted to get into that. What did you think about the editing? Because the editing is always critical to a film. It's a make or break part of the film, but this one is different because of all the elements that it's juggling. So what did you think about it?
So you may know In Session film contributor Sharia, who was the Fantasia world premiere. Shout out to him. When it premiered at Fantasia last year, and he told me the editing was, sometimes it was a little like they were holding on shots a little long, and he saw the finished version with me at the press screening, and he said the editing was much tighter.
Okay.
The original cut, and again, this is not me, this is him. So
right.
we can just bring him in right now, and he'll
yeah.
But I did not. I liked the fast pace of the movie, especially when it tries to build tension. I just think the editing gets a little too fast at times, and especially during the ending where it's like 1,000 things happen, none of it make any narrative sense, and none of it never really grabbed me at an emotional level that I ultimately cared about anybody, whether or not it was Mia or it was Riley or it was other characters from the movie. I thought it was huge that Chris Stuckmann got Keith David in the movie, and Michael Beach. They're barely in it. So
they are.
I mean, Keith David always does a fantastic job in anything he's in, but I wish to get more of it, to get more of him in any movie, basically. But yeah, the editing wasn't necessarily terrible. I just felt like it, I do feel it served the narrative and the fast pace of the movie. And I guess, some scenes that are really tightly edited feel a little compressed, and they could use a little more room to breathe, especially, in the last, 30 minutes or so. It's going from one scene to the next, and we're never really allowed to sit with the character and to understand the decisions that she is doing to, find her sister, whether or not she is alive. And I feel, Camille Sullivan, phenomenal in the movie, but I just wish that, we had a little bit more, more time to sit with the movie, the story, and the decisions that she makes.
Yeah, I agree similarly in the sense of I think it's a very interesting decision that the beginning is allowed to breathe, but not the end. And I get that decision because I get that you might want to move at a breakneck pace. You're ratcheting up the intensity. You're building to a hopefully, potentially, intense climax. But yeah, I feel very similarly because these ideas and plot points are introduced that very much are a pivot to away from what we've been watching, and kind of in a jarring way that could have been really great, and I'm not mad about. However, there is no moment to let this unfold. There is no moment to let the characters breathe, to let us breathe, to let us feel the gravity of what's happening. And I do think that there's a fine line between maintaining that tension and keeping that pace, but also sometimes you might sacrifice what's happening. And because there are elements that are introduced kind of at the last minute, it would have been nice to let it unfold a little bit more slowly, just a little bit more. So, but yeah, but I really do like how the film juggles and its various genres. I actually like that a lot, and I think it's one I find that even when it doesn't always work, I was so intrigued by that I found it compelling nonetheless, even when it was fractured. So, but yeah, I do agree with you about the end, that it needed more time, more time to unfold and to feel more for the characters. So you had mentioned Mia's performance, Camille Sullivan, and see, I was not a fan of her. So I would love for you to talk about what you liked so much about her performance.
Well, considering that apart from Keith David, every other actor in the movie doesn't give a very good performance.
Oh, okay.
I mean, the husband character is absolutely terrible.
Yeah, he's awful. I agree. He's
absolutely terrible. And there was one scene where I guess it was near the end. I laughed in the screening room where she texts her husband, "Here's my track my find iPhone. Call the police now. Help!" And he never really wants to do anything ever since like she's been on this quest to find her sister. And
That's
it's like,
true.
oh, now you think he's gonna do something? Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, he's very ineffectual.
Yeah, and I have no idea why she finds any love out of him. He's like, why don't you just let this go? And I'm like, really? It's your sister. Come on. Anyway,
right?
But she was very good. You know, she represents a lot of complex feelings and emotions that I found to be quite compelling, especially in some of the scarier sequences when where she looks at that tape, that was brought upon by the guy who killed himself. Mm-hmm. Where we really feel her pain and we really feel her desire to want to see, what happened to Riley, and it's as when the plot unfolds that it kind of falls apart. But I thought she was, like all things considered, I thought she was very solid, and she held her own with a script that I don't think was easy to work with. I don't think the greatest actor in the world could have made the script, really, really something special. So I think she did a very good job, and she was, for me, one of the strongest parts of the movie.
Yeah, I think that she is good. I agree with you that I think she's very good at the scenes where she needs to exude fear. Those are her strongest parts. For me, so much of the film is her in that faux documentary setting, and when she's more composed, even though she is frenetically searching for Riley, that there was something about her performance for me that was almost too composed. It felt too forced. It felt fake. It didn't feel authentic. So I agree with you in part, because I think when she's screaming, she's great. When she's terrified, captivating and really nails it. But for me, the other scenes, like the scenes with her husband, and who knows, maybe it's that actor's fault, but it just didn't work for me. And I know she's grieving. She's been grieving for over a decade, but for me, I didn't feel the desperation. I didn't feel the grief. Like, I know she's grieving, but I want to really feel it. I want to feel it in a more tangible, palpable way. And for me, it just didn't work. But I do agree that when she is scared, that is really effective. And I also agree with you. I mean, like I said, the script is by far, I think, the weakest part. So it is very difficult to work with a script when you don't have a lot. But I would have loved to have seen more of Keith David too, because he's a delight. He's always great. I also like Michael Beach. I don't think this is his finest work by any means. I've seen him elsewhere be much better, but I like him too usually. So I wish he'd been in it a bit more as well. But yeah, but I'm so glad that you liked her performance. Like I'm really glad that it worked. I wish it had worked more for me, but oh well, what are you going to do? but since we're talking about her as a character and her performance, what did you think about the film's depiction of grief and her search for Riley? Like, did you think it was understandable? Did you think what about what the film has to say about grief, maybe at large? Want to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, in the first 20 minutes, it was quite compelling because we really got a sense of how much she loves her sister, and she really, she wants closure to the story, whether or not she is alive or dead at this point in the game. It kind of doesn't matter. She just wants to find out what happened, and I think that's perfectly understandable as someone who grieved for a long time and now just wants to see, well, is she alive or what happened? In her mind, probably she's not alive. She didn't survive whatever happened, but she still wants to know exactly, what caused her disappearance and the disappearance of the other paranormal paranoids. So, I think first 20 minutes are fine. And then after that, everything kind of loses steam as soon as it switches to another mode of filmmaking. Because I think a lot of the sequences that were visualized, in the traditional filmmaking, like the ending and like the prison scene, could have been way more effective with a DV camera, where we can see all the grain of that, digital, I guess, early digital camera, early, like VHS cameras and stuff like that. That would have been really interesting and way more terrifying than the sort of polished cinematography that we have, which isn't bad, but it's still not. It's still not like amazing or like, genuinely scary, to be honest. And most of the scares that happen in the traditional filmmaking section are quite loud, and they're mostly jump scares. And I don't really like jump scares. I don't think I've seen a movie, except maybe Insidious, that really got under my skin with jump scares. I just find jump scares very predictable, very loud, and not what I would consider to be scary. But I just saw a movie that, in terms of the handling of grief, I just saw a movie called Train Dreams that really tackles grief in a way that's way more compelling than Shelby Oaks. It feels like, I saw what, in 2025, what a movie can really do to talk about a subject like this and put us in the emotions of a character versus the sort of bare bones of the story that we have with Chris Stuckmann's debut.
Yeah, I haven't seen Train Dreams yet. It's on my list. I cannot wait until I can see it because I'm very much excited. So I'm glad to hear it's a great film. Thinking about horror though, because so many horror films deal with grief, especially of late. You have even just this year, Bring Her Back, which is all about grief and is really palpable exploration and diving into the depths of despair and what you'll do for your grief and to try to remedy it. And then I also think, of course, of one of my favorite films of all time, The Babadook, which also is all about grief and living with grief and how it never leaves you. So yeah, I like the element of Mia still searching for her sister after all these years and her relentlessness and not giving up. And I kind of wish we'd gotten to know more. I get why we didn't, but I kind of would have liked to have known more about the 3 other hosts of this paranormal show, and because they were murdered. But I guess, we have an ending for them. Well, they were murdered, and Riley is the one loose thread that we don't know. And so that's really what's driving Mia, is because you're right, she wants to know what happened either way. And so that's such a great premise for a story, but there are just so many other films, whether they're horror, whether they're different genres, that have tackled grief in such compelling, riveting ways that I wish we'd gotten more of that. Yeah, so I definitely agree about that. Thinking about this film and how so many critics I have seen and read that said that even if this film didn't work for them, they see the potential in Chris Stuckmann's future. And so I want to know, what would you like to see from him going forward?
Well, I would like to first say that I think it would be a failure for Chris Stuckmann to, based on the mixed reception that the movie has gotten right now, it's at 58% on Rotten Tomatoes. I just checked. Based on that, reception, I think it would be a failure for him to stop filmmaking altogether and go back to film criticism. I think he should keep doing movies. Whatever it is, I don't really, it's like, I don't really know what I want to see from him, whether it's a horror movie or an action movie or a comedy or whatever. Like he used to make like home movies. Like he talked about this very frequently on his YouTube channel where, he made like a bunch of home movies that were, whatever. So it's, I think he wanted to make a horror movie. He made a horror movie. He can make whatever else right now. And I think he has the pedigree of, having made, yes, independently produced film, but one that had the backing of both Neon, Mike Flanagan, had its world premiere at one of the most important, if not the most important genre film festival in the world. Not everybody has those three opportunities happen to them for one movie.
Right.
So definitely, I think he should keep making movies. Because, well, as Park Chan-wook said, there'd be nothing worse than a film critic trying to make a film and it turns out to be a bad film, and then they have to come back and work as a critic again. You would have lost your trust with your readers, because if you're a bad filmmaker, they don't want to trust your reviews.
Yeah, I love Park Chan-wook, but I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that statement at all.
You used to be a critic, so maybe.
I know, as are many filmmakers. Paul Schrader, Roger Ebert, Jean-Luc Godard, Kogonada. Like, there's lots of them. Yeah, but I think film criticism is a different art than filmmaking.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah.
But I'm looking forward to see what he's going to do next, and I hope it'll be, again, I hope it'll be a movie. I would not like to see him, start reviewing movies again for a long time and just not make movies, because he's always been wanting to make movies. And it's like, great, you've made a movie, you got a lot of really cool stuff out of it. Keep at it, and who knows what will happen next, because now it seems like a lot of YouTubers are, dipping their toes into filmmaking for, I think I would consider Neon, A24 major studios at this point, because they've, Oscar-winning, Palme d'Or winning studios. Like Raka Raka, you mentioned Bring Her Back. They Talk to Me. They're doing other movies as well. There's this YouTuber who was 19 years old. He just made a movie with Renata Reinsve and Chiwetel Ejiofor called an adaptation of his videos called The Backrooms, which, at 19 years old, working with these actors, congrats to you.
Yeah, right? That's impressive. But that's impressive for any filmmaker at any age, let alone a 19-year-old.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm 26, and I'm looking where my life is now versus where this guy's life is now. I would sure like to make a movie with these two actors, but whatever. So no, I think it's, I think it's great that we're seeing, more and more people out of this generation, making movies. And if Chris Stuckmann inspires also a generation of aspiring filmmakers to pursue their dreams, because this guy's made it, he had Mike Flanagan and Neon behind this film, then, a lot of good can come out of Shelby Oaks, whether or not the reception was positive or negative. I think a lot of good can come out of a movie like this. And, the desire for someone to pursue their dreams and, experience things beyond their imagination.
Well said. Well said. I completely agree. I think reading that this has been a dream of his since he was 14. It's so inspiring and powerful to see someone realize that in whatever I don't want to say the reception doesn't matter, but in a way it kind of doesn't, because he did it. And that is so inspiring and really profound. And I definitely would like to see him make more films as well. I would like to see more horror, because I'm always excited for more horror. I love horror. But even if it was in a different genre, I'd be very curious as to what that would look like. as well. So yeah, I very much agree with you. I do thinking something you had said made me think about this. Because we've talked so much about how the faux documentary portion of Shelby Oaks worked, that was something that he really wanted to switch from. Like one point when he was pitching this or talking about this early on with a producer, he said he's like, can I do that? I want to do that. And someone was like, yeah, this is your movie, you can do whatever you want. And that's a really incredible sandbox to play in, that you get to do whatever you want, you get to make those decisions, you get to create the world that you want to. And that is a really powerful thing to be able to do, and it's great. And I think it's wonderful that he infused so many personal things. And yeah, I think that's spectacular. Max, do you have any final things you want to say about Chris Stuckmann, about this movie, about anything?
Well, if you've got a dream, just go out there and do it. Don't wait for anybody to tell you, oh no, it's impossible, you can't do it. No, just do it. And who knows where you'll end up if you just do it. So yeah, I think that's the biggest takeaway we can get from this film, even though I didn't like it and I didn't think it was that good. And again, it doesn't really matter. He did it. I didn't, but he did it. So, he'll be able to remember this for the rest of his life. And I think that's, it's very inspiring, and it's very cool to see.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I agree. I also think something we haven't mentioned that I think is also really cool is he's a queer filmmaker. Again, I'm always excited for more queer filmmakers. So that's exciting too. So I could not agree more. And like I said at the beginning of our conversation, I did not dislike this. I don't know. I kind of liked it weirdly. I don't think that there are parts of it that I don't think are very good. Like I said, it's very flawed, but I didn't have a bad time watching this. So, there are worse ways to spend an hour and a half of your time. And you're right. It's great to see where he's come, the trajectory of his career, and where he is now. So can only hope for bigger and better things, more things. So that's great. So let us know if you agree or disagree with us. Leave us a comment and reach out to us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok. You can email us at insessionfilm@gmail.com. Be sure to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and or YouTube. Stay tuned. Brendan and JD will be back for In Session's next podcast. And be sure to listen to their reviews of Richard Linklater's Blue Moon and Catherine Bigelow's A House of Dynamite, as well as their episode on their top 5 hangout movies. So I'm Megan Kearns. You can find me at Opinion S World on Blue Sky and Twitter, and the Opinion S on Instagram and Letterboxd. Max, where can people find you?
Well, you can find me at Max from Quebec. This is actually all my handles for social media, so it's quite simple. And you can find also me on In Session Film. I'm writing, several reviews in there and other publications as well. For In Session, I just dropped a review of The Woman in Cabin 10 and Paolo Sorrentino's La Grazia, which I saw at a festival, local festival in Montreal.
Very
and
nice.
You can look forward to other reviews coming very soon, like the Chainsaw Man movie, which was absolutely incredible.
Oh, all right.
So, yeah, that's what you can look forward to in the next couple of days, I guess.
Oh, I'm excited to read that review when it drops. All right. Well, this was such a great conversation. Thanks so much, Max, for joining me. And thank you for listening to In Session Film Podcast.